House Republicans voted Friday to make Congresswoman Elise Stefanik their new conference chair. The New York lawmaker is now the third-ranking Republican in the chamber. She says it's proof Republican voters still view former President Trump as the leader of their party. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killion has the latest.
House Republican leaders tried to present a united front this morning after purging Liz Cheney from their ranks and replacing her with Trump loyalist Elise Stefanik.
I want to congratulate Elise Stefanik.
The 36-year-old New York Congresswoman overwhelmingly won a majority of votes by secret ballot, replacing Cheney, who upset party leaders for criticizing former President Trump's refusal to accept the 2020 election result and his role in the January 6th attack.
But how can you be unified so long as you have some members who support the former president and some who don't?
We are unified, and I look to the voters across America. Republican voters are unified in their support and their desire to work with President Trump.
Stefanik was instantly praised by the former president, who cheered the Make America Great Again movement is strong. With his grip on the party tightening, a still defiant Cheney vowed not to back down.
I think the issue really is Donald Trump, and it really is the party, and whether we're going to be a party that's based on the truth.
Republicans who supported Cheney's ouster feel Trump's support is critical if they're going to regain power in 2022. Iowa's Ashley Hinson, a Stefanik supporter, says it simply came down to message.
I respect Congresswoman Cheney's conservative record, but if you're the leader of a company and they weren't delivering on the message that the majority of your company wanted, you'd make a change, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
And Nicole Killion joins me now. Nicole, what is next for House Republicans now that Congresswoman Stefanik has been elected conference chair?
Well, for House Republican leaders, they see this really as a moment to reset and turn the page. They insist that they are now unified and that they want to really turn their focus on the 2022 midterms and trying to win back the House. So that was part of why you saw this entire leadership shakeup this week, because they felt that Liz Cheney was taking them off message, that she was a distraction, even though she was telling the truth. But they feel that by having everybody on the same page with someone like Elise Stefanik, that they can now really turn their focus on the Biden administration and again trying to reclaim the House in 2022.
It really does show just how laser focused the party is on those midterm elections. Congresswoman Stefanik also thanked former President Trump for his support following Friday's vote. She said that he was a, quote, critical part of our Republican team. How much of an impact, Nicole, does the former president have on the day-to-day operations of the GOP?
Well, I don't know that it's so much the day-to-day operations, but clearly the former president has a huge role, and party leaders have said they expect him to play a big role in the party going forward. You know, almost every day the former president is out with statements. He is endorsing various candidates. So he is heavily engaged in this process. For months now, we have also seen lawmakers make these continuous trips and treks down to Mar-a-Lago, where the former president lives, to meet with him. So again, his involvement is quite significant. And again, this is why party leaders feel that it is important that they are all on the same message, because they do intend to utilize the former president as a try to win back the House. But those who disagree with them, obviously, it was creating a lot of tension. And while leaders say that this is a big tent party, clearly by this week's vote, they feel that they don't want to have some of those voices in leadership, that they want to make sure everybody is singing off of the same page.
Yeah, it is interesting, Nicole, because as you mentioned, usually a single-term president doesn't wield so much power in the party after losing an election. But certainly this vote demonstrated that he does, in fact, very much have control of the party as they're looking towards those midterm elections. Let's change pace a little bit and talk about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi now saying that the House Ethics Committee should look into Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for her alleged, and this is her quote, verbal assault directed towards Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Tell us what's going on.
Well, this stemmed from an encounter earlier this week that happened after both lawmakers got off the House floor, and apparently there were some reporters who witnessed this exchange where Marjorie Taylor Greene was following Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and kind of yelling at her and eventually called her a terrorist sympathizer. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene says she wasn't yelling or screaming. She's simply trying to talk to AOC, and she just wants to debate her on her Green New Deal. However, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez feels quite differently. I had a chance to speak with her, and, you know, she said that what happened was clear and that she does not, you know, that this really isn't just about her, but this is also about, you know, other women of color and not intimidating people for what they believe. She went further today in another exchange with reporters, saying that she doesn't think Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. So clearly this is an incident that has escalated to the point where some feel, including the speaker, that perhaps an ethics complaint should be filed. We don't know if that has since occurred, but both lawmakers have been at odds for several days now, and even prior to this.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Congress and the White House. President Biden met with Republican senators this week to discuss his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. Nicole, the White House signaled willingness to compromise with Republican lawmakers on this issue. So what happens next?
Well, the Republicans who met with President Biden this week were primarily Senate Republicans who are very engaged in the infrastructure process. And so, you know, from both sides, both the president and Senate Republicans feel that it was a good, constructive discussion. And so they do intend to follow up with the White House next week, where we do expect them to respond to some of the discussions that they had this week with more details on their plan. You know, one of the sticking points has been pay for, you know, how this infrastructure plan would be paid for, since Democrats want to do it with corporate tax and increasing the corporate tax, whereas Republicans don't really want to do that. And they suggest maybe using user fees as a way to kind of pay for this. So that's kind of where some of the disagreement lies. But the president has said he is willing to make some compromises, as have some Republicans who have been a part of these discussions. So again, we'll see if it bears any fruit next week.
One last question for you, Nicole. Turning back to the House, lawmakers have reached an agreement on a commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, this is a pretty significant development because obviously we're 4 months out from the January 6th attack, and for months now, Speaker Pelosi has been calling for a commission. There have been discussions between congressional leaders about setting one up, but they have been at odds for the past several weeks, really months now, over what this commission should look like, how many people should be on it, what should be the scope, should it just focus on January 6th, or should it look beyond to some of the demonstrations we saw last summer from Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And so they have really been at a loggerhead over this. But just this week, we did see a breakthrough. And today it was announced that at least they have reached an agreement on the parameters of a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th attack. This panel would have subpoena powers, much like the 9/11 Commission did. So we do expect legislation to be put forth perhaps as early as next week to move the ball forward on this. In addition, we also saw congressional lawmakers put forth a security supplemental package as well, which has also been held up for weeks and months. This would, for instance, reimburse the National Guard, which continues to patrol the Capitol. It would also address some of the security infrastructure in terms of fencing, provide, training for Capitol Police and other upgrades. So both of these measures, Democrats at least want to try to move them forward later this month.
Some movement there in Washington. All right, Nicole, thank you.
You bet.